for Wednesday, October 20th to order. Let me lead us in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have to serve the citizens of Glynn County. Be with us as we go about the business of JWSC. Help us to be mindful of the funds that we have to use and where they come from, and help us to just continue to uplift our staff. Thank you for them and their hard work, and just help us to glorify you in our actions, words, and deeds. It's in Jesus' name we pray, amen. No public comment. We'll move to the minutes, approval section. Minutes from September 15th, 2021, Facilities Committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes for the meeting of September 15th as submitted.
I'll second the motion.
Motion second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next is the Dunbar Creek Water Pollution Control Facility Design Build Contract Award. Mr. Burrows.
Yes, sir. Dunbar Creek Wastewater Water Pollution Control Facility out on St. Simon's Island has needs for improvements for RAS flow control, our aeration systems and the control thereof, potential clarifier improvements, and then improvements to the UV disinfection and tertiary filtration, as well as odor control and the internal water reuse system for that facility. After discussing with the commission the last couple of meetings ago, we decided we wanted to move forward in a progressive design build matter for this. So we went out for proposals in August and had 3 proposals submitted to us at the end of September. We had a 3-member panel that scored the proposals. There was a member of operations staff, a member of the engineering team, and a member of our senior leadership team that scored the proposals. The highest scoring proposal was submitted by BRW Construction Group out of the Savannah area. They would be pairing with Hussey Gay Bell as their engineering partner for this project, with an average highest score of 93. When you do the design build, and we'll go through this in a minute to make sure everybody's comfortable, there's a phase 1 and phase 2 services. Phase 1 services is pre-construction services, essentially getting up to 30% design. And then once we get through a 30% design figure, the design builder will present a guaranteed maximum price for the project as designed. Assuming that we agree on that guaranteed maximum price, they would then be awarded phase 2 services up to that guaranteed maximum price. So there are phase 1 services, which they would be guaranteed if awarded, even if we did not move forward with phase 2, is $53,300. They have 2 fee percentages included in the proposal, and that is on the phase 2 services for overhead and and it's called the fee percentage for the project. The overhead percentage was 11% for their proposal and 10% for the fee percentage. So if you'll flip actually to the 3rd page.
Okay, what's the 11% and 10% for?
11% and 10% is they will do, when we get to the guaranteed maximum and doing that, they will have an open book pricing where they'll have the equipment cost is X, materials is X, and their labor charge is this. They'll add all those up and then they'll add those percentages to those. So there'll be 11% for overhead for all items, and then there'll be 10% for essentially their fee charge for doing the work.
But they're still working within that guaranteed maximum price.
They would be working within the guaranteed maximum price, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, since we started with a question, let me follow on with that question or answer. Also, how does this compare to other projects in terms of the overheads? So it's approximately 21% here.
Right. Well, we got 3 proposals on this project. Now, people weight their proposals differently. Some people put more on the phase 1 services. Some people are going to put more on the phase 2 services. So the 3 proposals we got, the phase 1 services were the $53,000 here. There was one in the $150,000 range, and there was one in the $350,000 range for phase 1 services. The fee percentages on this proposal are 11% and 10%. On the one that was $350,000 for phase 1 services was 5% and 10%. And for the one that was $150,000 for the phase 1, it was 5% and 4% were the proposed fees. So you can kind of see with the lower phase 1, they're putting more risk on phase 2 at that point, whether that gets awarded or not.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, everybody's labor charges are different. So the equipment cost will be the same, material cost will be the same. Their labor will be different based off their standard labor rates and how many people they gotta have to do the job. Then there's the markup percentages.
And didn't each one of them give us an estimated cost of what it's gonna be too?
Yes, sir. Estimated cost, which of course is subject to change as we get into the design of this. We had 2 items listed as alternates and that would be to add a 3rd clarifier and to do roadway improvements coming into the facility. Assuming that all the alternates were done, there were 2 that were in the $6.5 to $7 million range, including the alternates, and there was 1 that indicated that even with alternates, we'd be looking at $5 million. That seemed lower than what we expected. So the other 2 being very close together, if we did everything, you're probably looking at somewhere at $6.5 to $7 million. But the roadway improvements may not be necessary. The clarifier likely will be necessary. So as you pull up this flow chart here, essentially we're at that first green diamond there where we would be selecting the design definition portion is what I was talking about. Here's the proposed scope of work we're talking about. And our target budget, we were looking at somewhere in the $5 million range on the project. Of course, as things comes up, we may want to expand that to make sure we get certain things done. So phase 1 services is they do these estimates to get to guaranteed maximum and also 30% design to get to that point where they can give us harder numbers, and they would say, I guarantee you we can do this job for $6.7 million. And then they could work towards that, and the only way that guaranteed maximum could change is if we decided to change the scope to increase that. At the GMP, if we agree to the GMP, then we would go to complete the project with this design builder. If we do not agree to the GMP, we can't come to an agreement on that. We could at that point pay someone separate to finish the design and then go through a traditional design bid build scenario if we just can't come to an agreement with the design builder on this one. So the only thing we're technically guaranteed to do if awarded with this is that first phase 1 service.
How long is the duration expected for phase 1?
I don't remember exactly. They were talking about having
90 days.
everything finished up by March or April for the design.
Okay. And what would be the intervals of meeting with your staff and the AE that does the design? 30% design. Is that monthly?
Monthly to start with, and then if we need to get in the nitty-gritty, we could always increase that.
Okay.
In terms of overall project for the facility, is this going to increase capacity, or are we replacing equipment that needs to be?
A lot of what we're doing is replacing equipment that's dated, but while we're doing that, we're looking to see where we can get additional capacity out of the system. We don't need that additional capacity today,
Right.
but if we're going to replace equipment and it's similar cost to get a little bit more capacity out of it, we may not change the permit or anything to actually have additional permitted capacity, but we'll have hydraulic capacity to do more.
I see. So potentially down in the future.
Right, we could go up
do
at a
that,
later
so.
date if
Right.
necessary. But again, right now, there's no reason to do that.
Right.
But it does include, in part of the scope of work, for them to do the permitting to increase the capacity to 5?
No, sir. No, sir. All permitting would be done in-house.
Okay.
And is this approach, as opposed to the other way we're doing it, the other, is this, what are the benefits of approaching it?
Well, if you flip to that last page, it's the 11 by 17 page.
Yeah.
There's 4 different types on here, but we're really looking at the first one and the last one.
Okay.
The way we traditionally do a project is called design, bid, build. We have an engineer design a project, we go out for bids for 30 days, we accept the bids, and then we build the project. So, down at the bottom, you have the best application for that. You're less concerned about schedule. We know with 100% fact what our scope is going to be. You have everything 100% figured out by the time you actually bid it out. The design build on the right, it's a little more organic of a process. We have more control over the budget because with the design bid build, we get bids back and the bids may come in higher than we anticipated.
Right.
Here, we can work towards our target budget in setting that guaranteed maximum price and include things in the scope or take things out of the scope as we're going on to make sure we stay on budget. So this has more flexibility to it. And we the way we review projects and our staff gets involved, we have a very sort of iterative process anyway. So the design build allows us to have those iterations on the front end and make sure we're all on the same page instead of getting sticker shock at when we actually get the price tag.
Okay.
Now, isn't it, it's quicker too,
So some of these items, if we know we're going to do some of these items and they need to be done quickly, while they're doing the design, some of the more maintenance-related items, the contractor can go ahead and get started working on. Instead of waiting for a full design to be completed and then waiting for a bid process, if we know, for example, that we need some VFDs replaced, they can go ahead and order those VFDs and get them replaced while we're going through the design process.
Another question is with all the trouble getting things in, are we kind of looking at expanding the time frame of the projects now because of the lack of that?
What we have done on the majority of our projects, now this one would be a little bit different on a time frame basis, but on a traditional design build project, we are working with the contractor on what their notice to proceed start date. So we may award a contract, say tomorrow on October 21st, but we look at the lead times and it's 16 weeks to get material. So we will wait to start that notice to proceed to say January 1st, so that they're not eating up contract time waiting on materials.
So once they can start moving, then you can hold them to the
Then we can hold them to their time frame.
Yeah.
But right now, if we started it, say November 1st, and it was a 180-day contract, they could eat up 4 months of that waiting on materials.
Right, yeah. Yeah, rather than do a blame game, it's
Right.
better just to work, yeah.
It's one thing if they're behind schedule for things that are in their control, but if you're just waiting on supplies,
Yeah.
there's very little they have control over in that regard.
Seems to be a perpetual problem these days.
Right now, yes, sir.
I'd like to offer a motion at this time. Move Facilities Committee recommended the full commission award a contract for Phase 1 services for progressive design build services for Dunbar Creek rehabilitation to BRW Construction LLC in the amount of $53,300.
I'll second the motion.
any other questions? One comment I have, Andrew, is when the 30% is through, and if we accept that price, will they be providing us a price, say if we purchased the UV and the filter equipment
Yes, sir.
ahead of time?
Yes, sir.
So we could take that out, and at that 30% time, we could then issue a purchase order for that equipment.
Yes, sir.
So then that can be being manufactured while they're finishing their design.
They could, yes, sir.
And
then
that
you
way we would speed up the project.
You speed up the project, you'd save sales tax, because if
Right.
the contractor's buying it, he's having to pay sales tax to the provider.
And their preliminary design is going to, 30% design is going to be based on that equipment.
They'll have that equipment selected at 30%.
And we'll know the fixed price, so then we're sure we're going to build a thing.
Right.
So we might as well go ahead and pre-purchase that equipment.
Yes, sir. For large equipment items like that, particularly if you can save 6% sales tax, that adds up.
Well, the main thing here is the delivery time too, because delivery time is going to throw the project way off. This would save us 6 months perhaps on the construction.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Next item is the Academy Creek Influent VFD replacement. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. We have 4 influent pumps at the raw sewage wet well that takes all the gravity sewer coming into Academy Creek, and all those pumps are set to be operated on variable frequency drives. That allows us to maintain the level in the wet well at a specific point so we don't pull it down too low and start sucking up a lot of debris in the pumps. Currently have 2 of those that are actually out of service right now. We have one of them has been out of service, and a second one actually messed up a couple of months back. These can still be operated across the line, which means they can go 0 to 100 instead of ramping up or ramping back down. So the pumps are still functional. But given that we've had 2 of them go out recently and the other 2 are nearing the end of the useful life, we had staff solicit quotes to replace the VFDs. We got quotes in and then went to our prime contractor at the existing Academy Creek site, who went to their subcontractor. Once we got the quotes back from the subcontractor, the replacement cost to do a change order to the plant is substantially higher than it would be to award this contract outside of the plant contract. So the low quote is pump and process equipment. They would be supplying the VFDs, and then they would have an electrical subcontractor, Jam Electric, actually install the VFDs at $91,988. Since this is being performed separately from the plant rehab project, recommend funding this out of the Academy Creek operating budget so there's no confusion of what we request reimbursement for GFA or anything like that for. So we have the money in the budget to get this done, and getting these 4 VFDs replaced would allow us more flexibility on plant operations.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move that the Facilities Committee recommend the full commission award a contract to Pump and Process Equipment for the replacement of 4 VFDs at the Academy Creek Influent Pumping Station in the amount of $91,988.
Second.
Motion second. Are there any questions?
I do have a question. Was the estimate from our staff higher than this for the replacement cost?
I will say that the estimate on the change order was a bit of a sticker shock to us. The actual cost we're getting here is in line with what we were estimating.
It is line, yeah. Because the other ones are pretty high. Yeah.
Andrew, in this building where these VFDs are, does the contractor have some work he's supposed to be doing inside that building?
Yes, sir.
Under his contract?
The contractor's got to install a new control panel, low voltage control panel in the building as part of the plant contract. There are existing VFDs that have to be demoed, but they'll be demoed as part of this contract. So we'll just have to coordinate with the 2 electrical contractors to make sure that they're all the same.
They would not have to, they were not going to be demoing the VFDs.
No, sir, because the VFDs were not part of their contract.
Now, are we doing any rehab work as far as repainting or
We're
HVAC?
put a new roof on the building, new HVAC, everything like that on that building.
And what's their schedule for completing all that work?
They are looking at on that building being done in January.
So that would be after or before this work's done?
Depending on the lead time for VFDs, if the contract is awarded tomorrow, you're probably looking at getting started with this sometime in December, so it'd probably be about the same time it's going on.
Should we delay this work until after we get that done?
We
Otherwise,
will coordinate with their, it may be easier to have them both in there and have it all going on at one time instead of having the work finished and then coming in and tearing up what just got done. You know.
what I don't want to do is create a warranty issue with the VFD people
Right, sure.
that would affect it.
Yeah. Now, these VFDs that we're purchasing, we went to a provider for VFDs. Danfoss is the brand name that we use. We get full 10-year warranties on these VFDs, even for lightning strikes. So if we take a direct lightning strike and it burns a VFD out, they just send us another one.
Oh.
So that's one of the reasons we've went to this manufacturer, is because most people aren't going to warranty lightning strikes.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Is the station designed for 3 pumps to handle the peak flow through Academy Creek?
I think it was designed that way, but if we have a major event, we need all 4 pumps.
Which we do from time to time.
We do from time to time need all 4 pumps.
Yes,
What's
we
the
do.
horsepower of those pumps?
125.
Yeah, that's what I see, 125.
All right, any other questions?
Nope.
All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is the North Mainland Water Loop Engineering Contract Award. Mr. Burris?
Yes, sir. In our North Mainland District, we've had some large water outages and boil water advisories recently because a large portion of that is single fed, meaning it's fed one direction instead of being looped. So when we have to valve something off, it cuts off a lot of our system. What we try to do in our system is actually loop it so that it can be fed from multiple directions so that we can valve off a much smaller area if there's a main break. So we've identified 3 locations in the North Mainland that we believe would be beneficial for looping. This also helps with fire protection and everything as well, because it can be fed from multiple directions. So there's a location on Haltala Drive between Kate Road and Old Jessup Road, on Bailey and Old Jessup to Perry Lane Road. There's actually a 2-way feed, a T that would be put in there. and then a 500-foot section underneath the spur from the Millennium Boulevard to the intersection of Perry Lane Road and Venture Drive. So we went out for engineering for this project. We had, at the end of August, in August, if you recall, we had we called it a reverse trade show where people could learn about our upcoming projects. And this one, I think, is a great example of the benefit of that, because we had 8 people propose for this project, and some of which we had never received proposals for in the past. So we got 8 proposals in for that. We had a 3-member team, again, an operations staff member, an engineering staff member, and a senior leadership staff member score the proposals. The highest scoring team was Four Waters Engineering out of Jacksonville with an average score of 90.7. This project is funded in the capital projects plan for 2021. Budget for that is $1.25 million. The cost of this proposal is $214,000. That includes design, bid assistance, and on-site inspection during construction. And all permitting that will be required, because this will require railroad permitting and GDOT permitting to complete. And Corps of Engineer permitting, because we'll be going through underneath some wetland areas. So a lot of coordination required with this one. We have worked fairly extensively with Four Waters over the years. If you recall, they're the ones that just completed the master plan. Right. So staff's recommendation is to award a contract to Four Waters for the $214,000. A score sheet is attached if you'd like to review the other proposals that we received.
Do I have a motion?
I make the motion to move that the Facilities Committee recommended a full commission to award a contract for engineering services to Four Waters Engineering in the amount of $214,000 for North Mainland Water Loops project.
I'll second that motion.
Motion second. Any questions?
So when this is done, then if we have a break, then we can isolate it to a much smaller area.
Much smaller area. Right now, there's a single feed all the way down Cape Road and the exit 38 area.
Right.
Because there's a feed up to Millennium Park where those hotels are on the north side of exit 38. And there's water up to the railroad tracks on Old Jessup, but on neither side does it connect. So it's single fed all the way down Cape Road and that Perry Lane Road area. So if we have to shut anything off, it shuts everything off that direction.
All the hotels, and yeah, I think we had that happen.
We had that happen, and you know, sometimes it's a short duration thing because it's a smaller line, but if a 12-inch line blows out, it takes a while to actually get the water off of that and get down there and get that taken care of.
Can
So.
Todd put the map on that so we can see where these lines are?
Todd,
Don't
can
we
you
have
pull
a
up
drawing?
on GIS where those
Don't
lines
we
are
have a
at?
drawing that shows these lines?
Yes, sir.
Todd's got everything there.
What,
We're sure going to try.
Four Waters, did they say when they could start and how long it's going to take them to complete the design?
120-day design time for Four Waters is what they're saying here. That would be them getting
thank you.
started. They allow 30 days per what we normally see on a contract execution timeline, so they'd be starting just before Thanksgiving and would be completed in November. Not November, sorry, February. They started in November, completed in February.
Okay, first we'll look at the ones out 341, Tractor Supply. I think everybody's familiar with where that is, that location.
Now, would it be a benefit for us to pre-purchase this pipe?
This is, I mean, we could pre-purchase the pipe. This isn't necessarily as time critical because we still do have service in the area. This is a service improvement instead of a replacement. We could save a little bit on the pipe and have more surety with our bidders by pre-purchasing the materials.
So what we don't want is to have a contractor, once we put out for bids, if we pre-purchase the pipe, then the contractor can probably give us a better price when they put it out for bids.
So yes, sir, that would remove a great deal of uncertainty for the contractors right now. One of the real unfortunate things for contractors is suppliers don't want to hold bid prices more than about 5 days right now for pipe. So when you put a bid in, it's going to be at least a month by the time it gets awarded and we get a contract, and then when they go to buy the pipe, the supplier's not holding their price anymore.
So when the engineer is about 50% through a design,
We could
at
go ahead
that
and
time,
do
I
it.
think we need to approach that and maybe pre-purchase it.
They'll know by that point how much pipe
Yeah.
is needed.
Yes, sir. Well, that's what we're doing on the road force main project. We've got it out for bid right now for the installation, and we are pre-purchasing the pipe. Some of that is definitely because of the time constraints, because of we want to be done by spring break on that project. But
On this, is there a place we could store this pipe close to where this work's being done?
close to here, How much pipe we talking about?
Yeah, it's,
A mile of pipe or so?
5, 4,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
about right.
about 5,200 feet, yeah, a mile. But it's not all 12 inches, is it?
8 inch, 12 inch, and 16 inch. So we could, there are areas we can store the pipe. It may not be immediately adjacent, but there are areas that are convenient to store the pipe at. If you recall from the North Mainland project, we got pipe in, and it was sitting there for a while, but we couldn't get fittings. So pre-purchasing the pipe and the fittings helps eliminate that issue from showing up.
That's the pipe that's sitting along.
It's going in the ground now. They're making rapid progress on that project, but it was sitting there for a couple of months because we couldn't get any of the valves or 45s or 90s to actually hook it together.
I will tell you that, having moved here from Miami, you didn't leave pipe around.
Pipe and walk off.
Because it was gone.
Where's the Word doc?
Todd, if you need, we can do this.
Did you do
during
the,
This is all I was doing.
yeah, I mean, the whole thing, is it, we're not doing the presentation on the screen?
The PDF
Yes. Where's your PDF?
is facility meeting, you might post it.
1020?
Yeah, up top.
Time.
There you go. One all by itself.
There we go.
Okay, to the
It
left.
just seems like a lot, $214,000 for 5,000 feet of water line.
Replacement.
But I guess it's a lot.
There's a lot of permitting that's going to be involved with this one. A lot of permitting.
Yeah, you said
That's
the
right.
railroad tracks.
That's why I'd like to see where it is so far as,
Got it. So let's take a look right here. Okay, Tractor Supply, who's familiar with where that is? 341?
yep.
Okay, Tractor Supply's right here.
Okay.
Creekside Oaks is a private water system, or they're on their own water right now, actually.
So there's a step out.
Yeah, right. Old Jessup Road comes here, curves around and joins New Jessup Road, T-bones into it. Our water line stops right here. So this is one of the loops that we would connect.
All the way to 341?
340,
It
well,
would go all the way to New Jessup, and then
let me pan down just a tad.
Not too hard there, is it?
there
That's
are
pretty
some wetland areas in there. There's a creek right there.
There is.
That's just straightforward though. isn't it?
Right. This one should,
Most
other
of
than
that-
the,
most
other
of
than
that
the
could be
creek
dig and
crossing would have to
replace.
be open cut.
What's that?
Other than the creek crossing, you got open cut, it will require DOT permit to come underneath New Jessup.
Yeah, okay.
Turn the ortho on so we can see. Correct. There's Tyler Creek right here, so that's
Yeah.
a little tricky spot. Also Bailey Road.
We would be also dropping a T up to Bailey to Perry Lane as well.
Now, when they tie in over at 341 and back at the other place, we're not gonna just let them use a tap and sleeve valve, are we? Are we gonna let them put in, are we gonna require them to put in cutoff valves on the main line too?
If.
Because
if
it's
on-
real easy for them to say a tap and sleeve valve,
Right,
but we sometimes need valves on that existing line also.
right. We got a hand line out here that they would just tie into. Sometimes if it's hot and they can't isolate, they'll do a tap and saddle. But typically we try to cut
I
in.
mean, that's an easy way to do it, but I think if we think about it, we need to make sure we got at every intersection so we can cut things off.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is our intent for sure at every opportunity. So this is,
I just want the engineer to make sure they do that on this.
Yes, sir.
because
that is the most northernmost. If we go back down Old Jessup, I may turn off the ortho so it moves a little faster.
Faster.
Yeah, all right. So moving down Old Jessup,
Which one was that first one we did?
The first one is actually the middle one on this memo.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, coming to the intersection of Crispin and whatnot, this is the Hatala, the infamous Hatala. I'll turn this back on, so. That's underneath the interstate there, Old Jessup, come back
Is that
up just
close
a
to
little
where the
bit.
pressure reducing valve is you wanted to put in, Andrew?
Not right here, no, sir.
Kate Road comes down here, pump station 4105 is just a little ways up here, railroad tracks cross under here. This goes down the road to B&W grade, 43-6. But the water line loop would come down Hot Hollow, which is here, come down here and connect to the 16-inch on Old Fisk. And this would directly give a redundancy back to exit 36.
Go to the north.
Feeds straight back down.
What's that? Berry Lane, Crispin, whatever that is, right, the Kate Road right there.
Kate Road?
You can see how far that is single fed, because that dead end down there, there's only one line all the way down Kate Road right now.
But this is just a straight line? Did this line have any permitting?
Heck.
There'll be potential railroad permitting on this one. Parallels the railroad. So you may have to get in the railroad right away to get that done.
I'm not real sure what I did here.
They're not gonna let you put a parallel line in the right of way.
We've got to figure all that out.
Well,
Canceled it. Hit the restart at the bottom left. The circle. Refresh. There you go.
yeah, I was trying to dock this
No
guy
too much.
back.
No GIS gets mad when you click around.
It does get angry. It gets angry. So right, so going back up, this is, you see the school up here in a second. Back up Kate Road.
So all those neighborhoods off of Kate Road are single fed right now off of Perry Lane Road. So if any break happens down there, you have to shut off that entire main. And you're shutting off multiple neighborhoods. And then the last one you can see there would just be going under the spur.
Correct, right here at the, somewhere in this vicinity. Intersection here, it's a gap in the eastern system coming off of Harry Drigger's underneath I-95 and stubs out here, dead ends. And then this all, like Mr. Burrow was saying, all goes back that way towards Old Jessup Road.
So we connect those two there.
Correct.
Right.
Where are we connecting?
We'll look for our engineer to give us guidance on this and find out where we may get an easement and whatnot, but it's
That's a
something.
spur?
Yes, yes, sir. Spur here, this is the strike zone bowling alley
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And two cans, well, that's Waffle House, two cans, I guess is here.
This will give us a lot better redundancy and reliability in the area.
Yeah.
Completing these 3 loops.
When you're putting water lines, how often do you have like the ability to shut off the flow of the water? How, a certain amount?
Every 1,000 feet, we try to put an inline valve, or at every intersection, at least 2 valves to
There's a T
feed
at
at
the
least 2
intersection, we'd
directions.
have
Yeah.
multiple valves. So.
Yeah.
Now, the water distribution guys want them about every 3 feet.
They want 4 valves at every intersection. Yeah, I can understand.
That's why when we tie in, the easiest thing is to put a tap and sleeving valve, but then you only got one valve at that intersection
Right, yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, another question I have, is that all tied on those 3 lines?
Yes, sir. Good.
What's the scope of services that the engineer is providing for this? We don't not understand what that is. It's not listed in here. So far as like construction, inspection, and all
Design,
that.
permitting, bidding. Construction management from reviewing pay requests, any change order requests, anything like that. 16 hours a week of construction inspection services.
Okay, so they're basically our owner's engineer.
Pretty much, yes, sir. We will also have our inspectors out there periodically as well, but they will have their own inspector out there at least 16 hours a week.
This is the same firm's doing the North Mainland, right?
They were a subcontractor to the engineer on the North
But
Mainland.
they're the ones who are providing the inspection on the North
On
Mainland?
the North Mainland force main right now, yes, sir.
And so is that 16 hours a week on that too, or what is it?
16 to 20 hours a week, yes, sir.
So is it their inspector?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Klink, I think his name is doing the inspection on that.
And we're satisfied with that?
Yes, sir. That project took a while to get started, but I think when Mr. Klein goes through the project report, we've got good news to report on that progress thus far.
Oh, you're fine.
gonna have to get easements.
Don't believe we will have to get easements. It's possible on the section down there at Millennium and Perry Lane, we might have to get some easements to actually get to where we can bore under, but that would be the only area we think we may need an easement.
Any other questions?
Nope. We're good.
Good.
All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Next item is Pump Station 4044 Engineering Contract Award. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. We had a unsolicited proposal and comprehensive agreement when a developer at one point was going to put some apartments at the existing Glen Place Mall site. They had contracted with Lovell Engineering Associates out of Valdosta to do that work. That project is no longer moving forward. However, we still need to improve that downstream pumping station at Pump Station 4044, which is located on Altama Connector right there beside Brakes for Less. It was the formerly Payless shoe store. Now it's called Brakes for Less, and there's a bank immediately adjacent to it.
It's right in that corner in there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, sir. So we have requested a proposal from Lovell Engineering since they had begun working on this design to complete the design so that we could install the pump station improvements. What is actually going to occur is we will be installing a new pump station at an adjacent parcel and using the existing pump station as a receiving manhole. So Lovell has provided their proposal to us, and it's $71,750. That includes design, geotechnical, and bidding and construction phase services, including on-site inspection as well. They've committed to 145 days for 100% design and out for bid, and then estimated construction timeline of 6 months for construction on this. This will be the first project we have done with LEA. However, during the preliminary engineering process on the unsolicited proposal that was completed, we were very satisfied with their work. They have done a lot of municipal work in the South Georgia area, particularly over near Valdosta, and so they are, we're satisfied with their abilities to complete the project.
I'll make the motion. I'll move the Facilities Committee recommend the full commission award a contract for engineering services to Lovell Engineering Associates, BC, in the amount of $71,750 for Pump Station 4044 rehab project.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Any questions?
Where's the new pump station? It's moving from there up to the corner? Is it?
Also, yes, sir, I'll zoom in a little bit. The mall area here, kind of give you perspective. Here's Publix and whatnot back here at the back. Zoom in a little bit.
Is that Scranton connector right there?
Altama Connector, yeah.
So this is the former Payless. It's a brake repair shop now here. Existing pump station 4044 is right here. And this is the location, the property line is right here between brakes and the bank adjacent to it, which we've been working with them to obtain the property.
Oh, right. That's right.
So it's the parcel will go right in.
You see right there where Mr. Hunt's finger is, there's a red square. That is a private pump station that serves that shopping development and bank. So they are okay with letting us have some property there so they can get off their own private pump station and they can just go gravity directly into the new pump station.
Okay. So everyone benefits from that.
Right.
Excellent. Yeah.
Will their survey include the legal survey for us to purchase that property?
That's my understanding, yes, sir, it includes that, yes.
And what's the reason for moving the whole thing over? Is there?
The station here has a control panel and whatnot, so it's above ground visible.
Yes.
The commercial entity here, it's been they have requested numerous times, can we move it? It's difficult to move a pump station, but
Yeah.
what this will become is the structure, underground structure will stay there.
Mhm.
It'll essentially become a manhole, just a large manhole.
Okay.
And then it'll be rerouted to fenced in area.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we don't actually own that parcel. We're there by easement, correct?
It's actually an easement, correct. It's actually by easement, yes. We have a dedicated water and sewer easement that this green line indicates right here off the right
It
away.
is an eyesore a bit, sitting there in the corner. I mean, it's noticeable is what it is.
It's noticeable, similar to what you would find in front of the Sonic, the station we just did in front of Sonic. Being in that easement, we're very restricted in how far we could expand the station and do any
Sure.
work at, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly if we put a fence there, it would block their,
Right, no,
you know,
that's, yeah.
not good for a commercial entity there for sure, but.
So the new location's gonna give us flexibility for the future also. if we
Yes.
need to Expand it or
Well,
increase its pumping capability.
One thing to consider here on this pump station, everything from up by Home Depot goes across the spur and drains into the station. So this station does not look that impressive when you just drive by it, but a lot of water goes through this station.
What's gonna be the capacity of this new station?
This station, I want to say it's I think it's 1,000 gallons a minute or so, because it's going right to essentially 4021, which is just downstream from here. But I'll tell you what.
Is 4021 the Sonic one?
Yes, that's Sonic. I'll tell you something interesting to look at right here. So here's the proposed site. Here's the receiving manhole. So it's just a very short distance
A
of
true lift
pumping.
station.
Jumper. So
Jumper station.
we get it to gravity right here. It's a shallow gravity manhole. Unfortunately, it's not deep enough to do away with the pump station. We sure would love to do that.
So it's just a jumper pump station?
It is.
That's all it is.
It is. Short little run, 50 feet or so.
And
Could almost put a
from
screw lift pump
aesthetics-
station in there.
Sir?
Could almost put a screw lift pump station.
Screw lift pumps, okay. Right. Old Archimedes.
That would be the first one of those we had in the system.
I'd like to see that. That'd be pretty neat.
And from an aesthetic point, is it going to look better than the one that's there now?
It'll be a little further off the road. We will have a fence around it. And if for our fencing example, please drive by K Street, the pump station we just finished up, 4003. We started going with this black coated vinyl fencing and it'll look a lot nicer out there.
We got some pictures in the report we could show you.
That may be our new standard for where we put fences at, because that looks really nice out there.
So there's not a whole lot of inspection on this then?
No.
No, sir. No, sir.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is Dunbar Creek Aeration Basin Number 2 bid rejection.
So we went out for bids to paint the existing aeration basin number 2 at Dunbar Creek wastewater plant. It is a 15-foot tall, 135-foot diameter above-ground steel tank. If you recall, we've been hauling grit out of there for several months, and we pulled the diffusers out of there. Since we had it down, we wanted to look at painting that tank. We got 2 bids in early October here, and the bids came in just shy of $800,000 for both of them, which is about double what we were expecting this to come in, and is above available funding for the project. Recommendation is to reject both of these bids and reconsider the scope of the project.
Good. Okay. I'll make a motion, we move the discussion. Move that the Facilities Committee recommended full commission reject all bids for IFB number 22-006 Dunbar Creek Aeration Basin number 2, painting due to insufficient funds being allocated for the project.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second. Any questions?
Well, there is. Couldn't the scope of this work be put into the Dunbar rehab?
It could be considered.
And then perhaps we would have more competitive.
One thing we consider on this, we compared this to what we did the elevated storage tanks paintings for. On a square foot basis, these bids came in a little over double what the elevated storage tanks paintings were. And we've reached out to several contractors, tank painting contractors, to consider why they didn't give us bids. And the answer we got was they've got so much work going on, they couldn't bid this job. So,
This work seems like it would be easier than painting.
right, because you're not having to tent and
Right.
just hang up in the air and do all this. So when it came in double what the original bids came back for that, kind of caught us off guard. And that's why we thought maybe we might want to step back and reconsider.
Yep.
And this way it can be coordinated with the contractor too.
we're
And
likely
and some of
going,
those tank people found out that something else might be going on, so they said that could be a nightmare.
well, one thing we can coordinate a little better too, we're gonna replace the diffusers in that tank anyway, so it's still gotta be down to replace the diffusers in the tank, so we're not in an immediate rush to get it completed.
I'm good.
Any other questions?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 3-0. Next item is infrastructure dedication. Mr. Klein?
All right, Commissioners, this is a dedication of installed infrastructure that was installed as part of a expansion project by St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church. And as part of their construction, they rerouted some of our water and sewer lines to accommodate what they needed to do. I'm going to skip down through here so I can get to our... Let's see. Okay, if everybody knows where St. Francis Xavier Catholic School is and church. It's right next to Hanover Square, just north of it. So what they did is they joined, and the GIS doesn't show how it formerly was. I can turn on the abandoned layer possibly. But they joined the two buildings here with another structure, a water line that was in between, and there was also the sewer went through here as well. So the structure couldn't be on top of these assets, so they chose to reroute the assets, and that's what they did. So the sewer was rerouted, and then also the water was redone as well. And GIS still needs a little bit of updates once this gets worked through. It's been in a holding pattern. Part of our process is in dedications and new infrastructure. Once it's dedicated and the board accepts it, then it moves forward with changing our mapping and all that stuff. So this one's been in a holding pattern, and it's kind of a good example to share. If you read the staff report here, it talks about the obtaining the record drawings. The end of every project is the closing documentation, which includes record drawings. That's the formal as-built, if you will, where everybody signs on it, contractor, everybody that says this is how it was built, surveyor, engineer, all that. I think everybody here can understand the value of having record drawings of what's been put in the ground. It helps for future needs when somebody needs to tie into that or maintain it. Sometimes at the end of projects, the record drawings are looked at as a formality and sometimes brushed off, and we aren't quite able to close the documentation piece of it. That's why it's been in a holding pattern. In this case, the engineer somewhat became unresponsive, the original GC, general contractor as well. So what we did is we did the best we could with the documentation we had. We took the as-built or red lines that are created during the construction process. We formulated somewhat of a record drawing where the contractor could sign it and say, yes, this is how I did it and whatnot. So did the best we could create any record drawing. We do have the dedication document from the church. They did what they were supposed to do as far as dedication document. That's included as well. And that is the last document in the package here for this item. And so we have what we need. We have an acceptable record drawing. We have the dedication document. And here we are, bringing it before the board for acceptance.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, Facilities Committee forward the above described dedication to the full commission for approval and acceptance.
I'll second that.
Motion second. Any questions or comments?
Yep, I do. Looks like the work was finished 2 years ago.
That's correct, 2019.
In your view, what would be a means that we could improve the responsiveness of parties that are to provide this information?
Very good question. So as part of the process, the normal process, Joint Water has an inspection, we call it, that's generally signed off by all parties involved. In this case, would be City of Brunswick. And then we would also have an inspection for certificate of occupancy. So before they could actually occupy the improvement or the structure, the reviewing parties would have to sign off on that. In this case, there was a urgency to get it opened, and we always try to accommodate the applicants as best we can, sometimes on good faith, to veer from the process a little bit and approve a certificate of occupancy, knowing or hoping that we're able to get all the closing documents in hand. Sometimes that doesn't happen. So this was a case of where once the project was done, parties kind of scattered to the winds, and there was efforts. As Mr. Burris, he sits in our review team meetings on Fridays. In our agenda, we have a whole section of projects that are to be closed out, and part of that is the dedications and getting through that process. Then we can move them to and get them off the list. And this one has been on there for a while, so we're going through there trying to shake the list and get them out of there.
So, if I understand it, is basically we've got a process in place to manage this.
We do.
We made a variance to the process for the convenience of the owners of the property.
We did.
We got that. It's just let me offer a little encouragement. Is when we choose to have a variance, that we should understand the risk and what it can cost the ratepayers potentially by having a variance. And so perhaps there are some options to consider in the future as alternatives. You know, if you get a variance, I don't know, post a bond or something like that. Sometimes that tends to get the attention of the professional engineer and the general contractor if they have to put up cash at risk. So just a thought.
Thank you. Yes.
Did they have to do bypass pumping while they were doing this?
They did. Yes, they did.
Did they do that, or we did that?
They did. The contractor did.
And do we have easements, or are these in existing rights of way?
They're in existing rights of way.
And so they repaved the road and everything too?
Yes, sir. They did.
Did we have inspectors on site during the process?
Absolutely.
We had inspectors on site during the process, and all gravity sewer that is put in, we also go back and televise with our camera units after installation to confirm no issues.
So Richmond Street was closed by the city for this work to be done? And
Correct. That section was abandoned.
It's permanently closed now?
Permanently closed, yes, sir. I don't know if the aerial shows it or not. I think it's an older ortho. Well, I can zoom in. Yeah.
It's a good project.
Yeah.
Very little benefit to having Richmond Street right there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good project overall. It helped school grow and all that. I like that we did that, and I don't have a real issue with the variance. It's just, I'd like not to pass the risk on to our customers.
The most effective way to get record drawings is to make sure you have them before they occupy the premises.
Now, is the new line, that's an 18-inch sewer line, right?
It matches, let's see.
That sounds plausible in that area, yes, sir.
That sounds right, but let's double check it.
Do we know what grade it's on?
I would assume minimum.
It is 18-inch, and amazingly, they were able to meet minimum grades. They actually were. I was really surprised. They lucked out in this case. But 18-inch, new PVC.
They didn't upsize it to meet them, did they?
No, sir, they didn't do an upsize for no, sir, they didn't. They did a little cheap technique, no, sir. But they're not showing it here because the ortho is not updated, but they actually bridged right here with the building, actually from here to here. So this is all rooftop now.
Yeah.
So they closed that section of Richmond Street, yes.
Yeah. So there's a water line and a sewer line, is that right?
That's correct.
That's correct. And we're going to clean our GIS maps up once, now that'll move through the process. It'll go to GIS for closing. They'll get the maps corrected, accurized.
Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Move to the discussion section, Water Pollution Control Facility Plant Flows Report.
Yes, sir. At Academy Creek, you'll notice the numbers from this month are remarkably similar to the numbers from last month. Very consistent flow. We had similar type rain for the month, but at 7.8 billion gallons a day, leaving the facility there about 58% capacity. Everything in compliance on the way out of the facility there, and 96% removal on BOD, 96.5 on TSS. One thing I will note at the end, you'll see 113, 114 tons of sludge to the landfill. Had a problem with the dryer where we were needing a thermal fluid pump that had a bit of a lag on it. That was installed end of last week, and those of you that don't know, we call the dryer Sarah. And Sarah has been back up and running for a week, and so we are back to drying sludge down there.
How does the cost of that additional weight compare to the cost of the?
Well, $35 a ton is what we pay to dispose at the landfill, and we go from about 15% solids to 98% solids. So there's an awful lot of water that comes out of that.
So basically, there's about 60 tons in there, too.
Yes. Yes, sir. So now we have 2 pumps, because we ordered 2 to make sure that didn't happen
So about
again.
$1,800 in additional sludge hauling
Yes.
cost.
Should we start looking at a backup dryer too?
That is a backup dryer would be a good decision. It would be an expensive decision. And the reasoning is the type of dryer that we have is not manufactured anymore. The company that manufactured our dryer is no longer in business. So if you wanted to look at a backup dryer, you could do one of 2 things. You could put a completely different type of dryer in there, then have completely separate drying systems, and that could be done. Or if you wanted to have like drying systems, you'd have to install 2 dryers so that you wouldn't have to have so many different spare parts for things. So it's something to consider. But a new dryer would cost you somewhere in the $3 to $4 million range.
Can we get a proposal from an equipment manufacturer on what it would cost?
Sure. Sure.
It would have the same capacity as the Fenton dryer does.
Yes, sir. We could look at that. Because it's
Because
not
we got
just the
We got the
dryer.
room to do it.
We have the room to do it. It's not just the dryer. You've got to put another boiler in there to actually heat everything up. You've got to extend the conveyor system, the screw conveyor system over to the new dryer to feed it. So there's, it's not just buying the dryer. There's additional things that have to go on.
But we have
But-
to do something to this dryer at least twice a year, it seems.
Yes, sir. We're spending $50,000 to $100,000 a year in maintenance on the dryer.
So, once we know the cost, there'll be some conveyor cost added to it, but other than that.
Those will be relatively minor compared to what the cost of the dryer is going to be. And this,
And it'd go to the same hopper.
yes, sir. Sludge hauling is becoming an increasing concern in the state of Georgia, which I'm sure you're aware of, particularly in the metro Atlanta area. So dryers are becoming a much more common installation now.
So it sounds like to me it's about a 3-year payback.
It's,
700K.
well, not just that. If we're saving $10,000 or $15,000 a month when we have to run wet instead of being able to run the dryer, as long as Sarah is running, no problem. But when she goes down, we lose a lot of money very quickly. Particularly now, we got the new sludge offloading structure that, when we talk about the Academy Creek project, that's supposed to be delivered. The new equipment's supposed to be delivered at the end of the month. Then we can take all the sludge from Dunbar and Southport and run it through the dryer too. So if we start doing that and the dryer goes down, then that's just compounding that cost.
What kind of fuel does Sarah use?
Natural gas.
By the next facilities meeting, can you have us some quotes on that? And
I will
also,
do my level best. But
also for the UV system
yes, sir, UV system I can get.
and the anoxic system?
We're still working through the anoxic on that, but we should be able to get ballpark.
Okay.
I came up with about 19 ideas yesterday for an anoxic system, and he told me about 17 of them wouldn't work. But that's okay. That means I had 2 that would.
Well,
So just keep that in mind there. We have started to dry out a little bit, which is very good because it was very wet in July and August around here. Over on Dunbar, you can see it did dry out quite a bit, down to 3.1 MGD on the way out, even though, of course, September with the Labor Day holiday is always a big holiday on the island. but everything is well within compliance there. 97% removal of the BOD and 99% removal of TSS at that facility. So that plant is being operated very effectively by staff. And then down at Southport, we've actually, I don't know if I've mentioned this previously, but we've had some turnover in our operations division. People have left our employment, so we've had to wrangle in our pretreatment coordinator, Miss Angela Walker, who is a Class 1 operator, to run Southport for the time being. So she's doing pretreatment duties and Southport duties right now. But as you can see from the Southport report, she's doing a very good job operating that facility. So it's good to have staff that has that flexibility. So nearly 94% removal of BOD. Again, that seems a little lower than other plants, but when there's the BOD coming in is only 94. You got less to take out, it's harder to get a higher percentage. And the TSS removal at 98 at that facility down there in Southport. Still running about 29 to 30% of capacity on a daily basis down there in Southport.
Can you explain to me why the pH drops in the Academy Creek plant about almost a point? The Dunbar plant stays about the same, and Southport looks like it goes up.
pH
through the
would drop
process.
because of the consumption of alkalinity. Alkalinity is the buffering capacity of the water, and we have ordered the supplies and material to begin testing alkalinity at all of our facilities.
Are we adding lime at Southport though for the pH to be going up?
No, sir, we do have to add a little bit of lime when we dose alum, but that's it.
And if we do the administration building, we'd have a new lab at Academy Creek.
Yes, sir. And a new water line.
At Academy Creek, new water line?
There'd be a water and a wastewater lab at that building.
Okay.
We talk about the water, all these boiled water orders that have been coming in.
Yes, if
I
you've
get the
noticed, we've
notices,
had
so I
quite
noticed.
the increase in the last 3 to 4 weeks in boil water advisories. One thing I would like to point out is if you click on the link that gets sent out, it will bring up a report. And unfortunately, we have a lot of work going on in our community, which is good, and contractors do their level best not to get into other people's utilities, but sometimes it happens. And we've had several instances where a contractor has dug into a water line in the past few weeks, and that has caused the increase in boil water advisories. With the new guidance and the way we're operating our system, we were able to reduce those boil water advisories, but if a contractor digs into the line, we don't know what's going on, we're going to put that boil water advisory out to be safe. The likelihood of there being anything wrong is very slim. We check the chlorine and make sure that that's effective the whole time. But since we don't know exactly what happened, we put that out upon as a safety precaution upon completion of the repair. I think 1 week we had 3 or 4 of them, and all of them were because contractors had got a hold of our lines.
Is that, are we calling for locates on those?
They are the majority of them are boring contractors. And
Some cable and
fiber.
Do they pay for the repairs?
They are billed for the repairs. Payment is not always quickly received.
Do we have to pay them for any repairs?
If we get into their lines, yes, and if something that was located and we still got into their lines, then if we damage their lines, we pay for the repairs. Because, in my opinion, that is the right thing to
Are we responsive
do.
in paying those?
Sir?
Are we responsive in paying those?
Yes, sir. If it was located and we knew it was there and we got into it, we'll pay it as part of a standard invoice. I mean, I can't in good conscience expect them to pay their invoices if I don't pay ours. So, I will say, to our credit, we don't get into near as many lines as people seem to get into our lines.
Okay, the next item is capital project report. Mr. Klein and Mr. Burrs.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll work quickly through this, but we do have some good updates, as Mr. Burrows mentioned. First project, 702 North Mainland Pump Station, 35 and 36. Still, both sites are still under demolition and completing of that. So if you have any questions about any of the pictures here, glad to slow down and speak of those. The one down here is the wet well. Last facilities meeting, we did get a change order approved to remove the, it's actually 36, but 36 is very similar to 35. Existing concrete, fillets and whatnot down in there, walkways, et cetera, to free up that wet well. It's looking good at 36.
Question on that, on the exterior wall where the windows were, are we just concreting that up? Or we're not gonna put any brick in there to fill up that, or what?
That's actually turning into it had glass block in there, and the glass block was in poor repair, a lot of BB shots and whatever else into it. No, sir, just blanking those off. That's actually been, some of the electrical is going into that area too. Inside, it's become somewhat of a closet.
I understand on the inside, but from the outside, can't we, of course, it might be hard to match up the brick, but
Yeah, certainly could look at that for aesthetic reasons. This one's pretty visible right off of, well, this side is. Yeah, heading down 341, right there in Arco. It's on the edge.
now we're gonna have a black fence all the way around this one too.
Fencing replacement's not included in this one, is it?
That's a great question. I got to go back and check.
We took it out.
And when we
We
economized
did this
it.
out and it came back higher than expected. We reduced the scope. I think we took fencing out of this contract.
Yeah, because 36, I think it's the same
For
way.
the fencing would block that
It's not, it's
from
sticking
the
up above
roadway either
fencing.
way, because those are fairly decent looking pump stations, but if we got a big two concrete blocks right in the center of it, I think that's not very pretty.
They'll be painted, but, to match the soffit and whatnot, but it'll look nicer than that. Certainly, if there's more desires, that's easy stuff to do there. But inside the stations, they're looking good, getting cleaned up, new ventilation on top of the wet well structure. Last picture to the bottom left there is the bypass on 36.
Do we have those big of exhaust fans at 4,003?
Now 3 is the wet well. No, sir.
Smaller?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. And a associated project with this one is 702 force main reroute up off of Harry Jurgis Boulevard. That's where all activities happen now. It's going very well. Pipe installation, all the 18-inch is essentially in the ground.
18-inch open cut.
Open cut, essentially, thank you, open cut in the ground. And boring contractor should be here very soon. Water on canal will be moving forward as well.
According to the last message I got on an update Monday, they got to station 112 and they're testing up to station 112 now.
Right.
Pump station 112.
No,
Station, yeah.
station, survey station.
Where's that?
Went southern wind.
Beyond Southern Landing, right, back to the south of Southern Landing where it curves around through there.
There's still some shots, they gotta go under some wetlands areas, so it's not all connected all the way that far down. We've got probably 9,000 feet of pipe in the ground, something like that.
And how much have they tested? Have they tested some of it? Is that what you said?
As they go along, they test, yes, sir. So, as Mr. Burris said, this last segment will be tested should be,
He sent a message while we were in the meeting. They pigged it, they're fixing to go through, clean it and test it. So
And how
hopefully
deep,
that'll
how
be
deep's
tested.
the line?
How deep's that line?
4 feet, 5 feet?
4 or 5 feet.
right, the open cut section, correct, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can see this bottom right here, this picture here, or middle pictures, kind of give you an idea there. So it's about shoulder height to these gentlemen here. See that down there too. That's where they got into, there was an unmarked 4-inch water line through there they got into. Who knows what that was, but it was in the ground from we didn't have any record of it. So,
Maybe it was an illicit tap.
yeah, it could have been. Could have been an old piece of PVC, who knows. But wasn't sewer, thank goodness, because it's blue pipe. But anyway, I believe that is Southern Landing.
I was thinking southern wind.
Yeah, right there. And give you an idea, they're keeping it groomed and in good shape, and our inspectors are on top of them. But the contractor's doing a good job. Okay. Pump Station 4003, Project 703, is substantially complete. And we're working through punch list items on this one here. Most notably, working through some VFD issues. One of the VFDs is getting tweaked, adjusted. That's a good looking station. I really encourage you to drive by. The alleyway is reopened again, so the residents have access back through there. The fence is up, so we're not occupying any of the adjacent property anymore. We're all within our fenced-in parcel now. And there's a pretty good overview shot of it from above. Looks really, really nice out there. Odor control tower to the north.
2 questions on this. Are they furnishing a bypass pump?
No, sir. We
It's
are.
just a pad for our bypass pump.
It's a pad for us to pull a bypass pump there.
Correct.
So we're gonna put one there?
Not permanently.
Okay. And all of this area around the site outside the fence, that's from their construction, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
it's been, they put seed down.
Okay.
This can be correct. Be revegetated. Our site is the fenced-in area. I think city still owns.
They own all the way to the roadway.
Are they on down where your hand is now, back this way too?
Well, this land here is owned by the tourist group. My understanding is they own this, and they actually allowed us to occupy it during construction. They give us construction easement. So now we've exited from that property, returning it back to them.
Okay, so the city only owns out to the right of way.
Correct, from our fence out this direction. And this is actually alleyway as well from here out this way. So this is back opened up again, so you can drive back and forth.
Is that chain link fence with slats? Is that what that is? or-
Black flat vinyl with the fabric.
Okay.
Wind time.
Looks good.
This is black clad, you
Good.
said black clad vinyl fence?
Black clad vinyl, yes, sir.
It is nice.
That's a good picture, that.
One thing we've determined is
Drawing
chain link
picture.
fence doesn't always hold up real well near a pump station. So the
Yeah.
vinyl will hold up a little better than the chain link will.
Yeah.
We've actually been talking about trying to get quotes from our contractor on what it would take to put that fence around Academy Creek.
At least along the road.
Right there on the road.
Yeah, that would be nice, yeah.
So, of course, we had some challenges we talked about along the way, but I'll tell you what, the contractor really bringing it to a good close here at the end. They've done quality work, and we hope to have these last couple items on the punch list addressed here in the next couple of weeks, and then project closed out. Okay, Canal Road to Glencoe, project 704, and this 12-inch water main, that's been on hold due to the wet conditions out there. That's an in-house project, and our pipe just arrived today for the directional pulls underneath the 2 FLETC entrances.
Well, that project actually has 3 parts. Yeah, the open cut section we're gonna do along Glencoe Parkway. We have a contractor come in and do the gates of FLETC. And then this project also is bringing a water line down Canal Road.
It is.
We've been down by Canal Crossing. Another one of those loops that will take it by the airport and everything and give it multi-directional feed.
Yes, tied in with this, this is going to give redundancy to the airport, industrial park, all that, because right now it's a single feed through FLETC's campus on Memorial Drive, a single 10-inch cast iron that feeds that whole area. So this is going to create redundancy here. It's been needed for a long, long time. Airport Authority is very excited about having this in. Magnolia water improvements, all of our work, joint water and sewer work is completed in there. We are just awaiting eagerly record drawings and a final pay app from the city of Brunswick to close this one out. So
There will still be ongoing storm work and pavement work.
there will, the city of Brunswick.
Our portion of the project.
Correct. City of Brunswick's continuing with their roadway and drainage improvements throughout Magnolia Park. And we're going to get them to straighten up this hydrant right here. Level tells the tale.
What did we learn on this?
Did we learn? Well, we learned that sometimes you can go on the shoulder of the road in established neighborhoods. It can be done. It can be done. I was doubtful to begin with,
What
but
we learned is Todd and I can be wrong. despite how much we don't want it.
Is this being recorded? Yes,
I
okay.
didn't want to bring that up, but what else did we learn? With the city and on projects like this? We probably learned something else too.
Always something to learn. You know, there's the combination of effort between us and the city. It's a good thing because you get in there and disturb the neighborhood one time to improve utilities and improve the roadways. That's a good thing. You know, obviously there's the contractual side of things. We're working through the city's contract with the contractor, so we don't have contractual control over the contractor. So that's a little bit of a challenge sometimes. That now we can still, the city honors all of our, we have to review and approve everything, pay apps. We still control the money, but officially we don't have a contract with the people that are doing the work. That's one challenge that can be with cooperative projects like this. But I think you get in there and get it done. You work together when you can. At least we're not, you know, streets aren't being paved and then we're going in and tearing them up, putting in water lines. It's painful for a bit and then it's done for the residents.
This one seems to have gone pretty well considering the scale of it. Just about, I think it touched every single street.
The scale of it, and that is a very established neighborhood. So anytime you start working in established areas, you start envisioning all sorts of problems that go in along with that. But this one went from a water install about as smoothly as we could have ever expected it to.
I tell you, the probably the other thing you learn from the residents, I really got to give credit to the residents because they're very understanding out here. Minimal complaints, really minimal complaints. And it was rough. I mean, the streets were torn up. They really were. But I think something else learned. We went in there and we did one street first. I believe it was Woodland, and the city paved right afterwards. And so the residents saw what was coming, and that made them understand that, hey, we're going to have a nice, pretty new street in here. Yeah, water lines, okay, that's great. We're going to have a nice, new, pretty street in here. And I think once they saw that and they could tangibly see that, it helped them grunt through the rest of it.
We have a project upcoming in C-Palms. Are we going to be replacing some water lines in C-Palms?
Just the crossings right now.
There's the crossings on Frederica. So we'll tie in the
But eventually we're going to be replacing a lot of lines in C-Palms. Is that correct?
Yes and no. We will be replacing sections that need to be upsized, but before they paved in C-Palms, we put carrier pipes so we can pull the pipe through the carriers without having to dig up the road. So our crews went out and installed larger carrier pipes at those intersections before they paved, so we can just pull the new sections of pipe through the carriers.
Right. Those will be similar shoulder dug installed there, right?
I just wondered because we're going to have ARCO coming up too. I don't know
Right.
what we learned here that might help in ARCO or something.
I will say, we have the ARCO out for bid right now. The deadline for questions was yesterday. I don't know if we got the greatest set of plans ever or what, but we got 0 questions on that project. So that is a first, that we
means
got 0 questions on
It
the
knocked out of the park with the plans, didn't it?
So,
Okay. All right. So Academy Creek, I know Mr. Burrows wants to showcase some of the things in here.
yes, sir. Sludge offloading facility there. They've got the stairway down. There'll be a live bottom bin in the bottom of that structure with an auger going out to the other bin where the current sludge goes. That will allow us to offload. We've also got new LED lights along that side of the building there. And once the project is done, we're going to come in and level out the other side of the building where the old compost rows are at. And we can use that for material storage and parking of equipment underneath that building. We've also, and it's not available in this picture necessarily, but behind all that existing equipment, we have installed new polymer pumping equipment and mixing equipment. And we've also separated sludge lines. So we have 2 belt filter presses. Previously it was single fed, so it got to a point and then teed off. So you couldn't balance appropriately to get both the presses operating. We've now separated those feeds. We have separate polymer feeds, so we can run both presses at one time now if we needed to.
That was in the contract?
That was in the contract. And I was up there the other day. I'm a bit of a belt press nerd, and it looked better coming off the belt press with the new polymer equipment than it had the whole time I've been here. So that's a win all day. Installation of handrails and grading is going on at the filter equipment. Go back up.
Nope.
on the right there.
That one picture shows the dryer at the very tip top.
Yes, sir.
So you could explain to Commissioner Cook where the new dryer would go.
It would go immediately to the left of that. That, what you're pointing at there is a boiler, so there'd be another boiler to the left.
Okay.
And then the dryer is that, zoom in.
Let's see if we can do this.
To the left of the pit that's in the foreground.
No, so
I
it
see.
would go, the dryer is that round area, that's the
Okay.
dryer. So
Right.
it would be immediately to the left of that, the belt presses are to the right.
Okay.
So then that open area between that boiler, which is at there, and the dryer behind it, there would be a secondary boiler and dryer.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay, you can zoom back out. So the filters are ongoing, they've got grading installed, now they've got electrical panels installed up there. They're not, the wires aren't landed yet, but they've got the panels in place up there now. And you now don't have to climb a ladder to get up there, they've got the stairwells in place, which is much easier on getting in and out.
Good.
We go down, that is aeration basin number 1, that is where the RAS does not go in right there, but there'll be a new concrete structure adjacent to that that allows the RAS to go in. The existing one, when we got over there, we figured out there was about 6 inches of daylight between the bottom of the concrete structure and the ground. And we did not want to start dumping new amounts of flow into a structure that was floating. So we tore that out. Small change order on this inside the allowable amount we had in the contract. And they'll be putting a new structure there to receive that recycled flow.
Is that where the anoxic basin would be?
No, sir, the anoxic, well, on this one, yes, sir. The anoxic basin theoretically would have to come in this general area. This is going in stage 1, where that hole's cut at. So on the other side, there would be stage 4, which is the last stage. So if you put it in an anoxic basin, you would come out of the last of stage 4 and recycle that mixed liquor back to the front. You recycle sludge for multiple reasons, and an anoxic basin recycles sludge to increase the amount of nitrifying bacteria. On the right is a new splitter box that's going in. We've demoed about 3/4 of the existing splitter box, but we can't demo all of it because it's still in service until this splitter box is complete. So that's why it looks like that's half done, but they've been forming concrete there, and that's going very well. Our contractor does fantastic concrete work, and that is becoming a lost art. So they do great concrete work. And then we've been working on the clarifiers on these bottom 2 pictures. The picture on the right kind of shows it more. Kind of see those slanted fiberglass installations there. That is a density baffle that prevents sludge from short-circuiting and coming out. So as the velocities increase coming out of the basin, sometimes the sludge will go up the walls and go out. Those keep it from coming out. So that doesn't look like an awful lot of help, but that will actually prevent any sort of solids wash out in the event of high flows. And we're doing some center feed well improvements. The flow comes up in the center of the clarifier and then disperses. The existing ones, it's circular, so technically a circle doesn't have a side, but there's 4 sides where it comes out. The new ones have 6 sides, so it helps disperse everything more evenly throughout the basin.
The weir troughs there, are we cleaning those up and repainting those?
We're going to clean them up and get pricing on repainting. We got pricing on repainting all the weir troughs and the skimmer arms and everything. And that was a bit outside of what we were wanting to do there because we have 6 clarifiers, so it gets multiplied rapidly. But we're getting pricing on some touch-up areas.
Okay.
Odor control is installed. The unit, the panels that actually will enclose the wet well are not installed yet. So we can't really turn it on because there's no enclosed area to pull it out of. But the odor control unit is installed, panels are installed, and the blower is installed, as well as the secondary carbon polishing filter has been installed. And we've separated the sludge lines from clarifiers 1 and 2. I think that's all that we've got going on right now.
And when's the completion date supposed to be?
First week of March is what is currently scheduled as their completion date. Contract date is May.
But the bar screen has been
End
delayed.
of January. Apparently there's a steel shortage, but the scrap prices has not went up yet, so that doesn't make any sense to me. Seems like if they needed steel, the scrap price would be increasing.
It's all stuck offshore. All right, good deal. Move along to base 4105, 107, and 4036 CIPP rehab. So 105, 107, we're essentially 99% what I would say bid ready. We're going to make a determination what we do for that project, for the upgrade of those two stations. And as part of that project is the 36 basin lining work. Just a couple good pictures of typical aged infrastructure, a couple defects and whatnot from some of the CCTV video that our contractor did.
Where are these lines, Todd?
A few of them are around exit 36.
Okay, 40, 36, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 goes down by that's the section from 36 directly upstream by the railroad tracks.
Yeah, so that's behind Rich CPAC, if off of Glendale.
Is this a concrete pipe?
Yes, sir. It's RCP. Although there doesn't appear to be a great deal of reinforcement remaining.
There's the whale bones, rib cage.
Will we be able to slip line this, or we're gonna have to replace it?
They can line that. That looks very similar to what we just lined on Whitlock.
It is, yeah. Yeah, so this will be lined. Company's back in town. They're looking at bypassing over the creek there behind 36 to do this, some of these pictures you see, that segment behind Rich CPAC along parallel to the railroad right now. So they're working with the county to trim a few shrubs around the historic Altamaha Canal and made that bypass across the creek.
That contract's not for relining too, though, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Yes, sir.
And this is all part of, it needs to be done anyway, but it's part of the reroute, ultimate reroute whenever that happens. So this gravity's in good shape to take that flow from 4105.
Okay.
Okay, Bergen Woods, good news on Bergen Woods. So we expect by the end of next week to have all the pipe in the ground for the force main. And that's the force main that serves the safety complex pump station 4116. So we're really excited that the force main is in the ground. Looks like we're not excited that 4116 is not done, but we're glad the force main looks like it's going to be done before the pump station. Still waiting for a couple electrical items at the pump station to be installed. We'll be testing that. I think they're going to test it this week and make final connections and whatnot by the end of next week. So we're looking in good shape with that one. And this is a comprehensive project with Bergen Woods. 8-inch force main, which opens up potential opportunities for extending further up the spur to neighborhoods. There's a couple neighborhoods up towards 99 that actually we've got some inquiries from.
Additional capacity for a large tract of land right there in between.
That's correct. That's correct.
99 and the interstate and the spur.
Right. So we'll see what the future holds with that one. CPOM's East Waterline Rehab, that's what we spoke a little bit about before, about internally, and then the crossings that are going to happen off of.
We are sourcing material now. We've ordered it, trying to get it all here to actually do the crossings across Frederica. Of course, we will do that in the off-season for tourism. And it will be done, of course, at night if we're going to go across Frederica.
Okay, Oak Grove Force Main and possibly alternate pump station 4132 improvements. Comprehensive agreement with a group that's doing a residential development on Oak Grove Island. And that was bid out, bids are received, and they're under review by the applicant and the engineer of record to determine how they wish to move forward. That's the site of the residential area that's proposed on Oak Grove Island.
These drone pictures are really good.
They help give a good view, don't they? So, yep.
A lot of clarity, too. Amazing.
Right. Yeah, we have a good drone force of at least 2 or 3 certified drone pilots on staff. So, all right. 2002 force main replacement. Mr. Burrows, I'll let you.
Yes, sir. This
cover
project
that
is out for bid right now. We held a pre-bid, had 3 bidders attend the pre-bid. We are accepting bids November the 2nd for this. We are buying material outside of the bid process. The bid process would be for the labor. We are getting quotes for materials so that we can get this work started and completed prior to spring break in March. Likely during this project, we're working with Glynn County. We'll need to at least shut down one lane of Arnold Road during the construction. It's only 1,300 feet of installation, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a crowded right-of-way right there. So it's going to be a slow dig along Arnold, and then we will be boring a section down Demery Road to tie into the existing PVC force main at Demery and Mallory. So a lot of coordination that if you've been around very long, you've remembered multiple times we've had to shut down Arnold Road because the existing force main had failed. So this will be a new force main to get off that older cast iron force main.
Okay, Arco area water and sewer extensions. Pre-bid 1014 and bid opening 1028.
Something for you to consider at the next meeting.
Community road sewer expansion. So currently some of the proposed easements are under investigation, and final considerations by the engineer of record on this project here.
Have those plans been submitted to EPD yet for approval?
Galvanized replacement system-wide in-house project. It's a good picture of our water distribution team. I think they found an illegal connection on one of these, and that's some of the galvanized pipe they're taking out of the ground.
We just recently completed some installs in Wesley Oak Circle, Postel Drive, that area of the island. We've been doing a lot of work in, trying to do whole neighborhood areas while we can instead of doing short pieces. So we've replaced just about 2 miles of galvanized pipe so far in this project.
Is that illegal connection on the existing galvanized service line that somebody tied
Yes,
to?
Somebody had tied into, yes, sir.
So it had been a long time ago.
It's been there for a while.
They haven't paid a water bill in,
Hadn't paid a water bill in several years. Yes,
Is
sir.
that a service line we're replacing, or is this a galvanized water line?
It's a 2-inch main, and then
And they tied into it?
they tied into that. Yes, sir.
at night.
So it's going to reduce our unaccounted for now.
Should
there-
reduce the unaccounted for. Yes, sir.
Right, so there's also some meters installed. I believe this is in, which mobile home park is this? I'm trying to remember. This is the one that's taken some of the trailers from New Hope. What is the name of the one over there? Manual Farm Church? Oh, golly.
I can't keep it.
Yeah, name's escaping me of the mobile home park, but anyway, they reached out to us for some assistance out there with some leaks that they had and whatnot from the service lines, and the distribution took the opportunity to install some new meters out there at the same time, so. All right. 4116, mentioned this one briefly before. This is, it actually looks a little bit better than this. Now, all the structures are essentially complete. The little bit of final site, pushing the dirt around, getting this final site grade set, and electrical components were the last thing we're waiting on to get out there. Got the pumps. Meter replacements, year 1 and 2. And I'll let Mr. Burris talk about this.
Yes, sir. We've replaced, as part of the project, it says there we got a little over 4,100 meters installed. Some of those are new installs, of course, as people get on the system. So we've replaced about 3,900 meters, I believe, so far with the project. Most of those have been 5/8 and 1-inch meters. We do have some of the larger meters replaced. They have been completing an audit of our existing system to determine the amount of new brass that is necessary as part of these installs. Fortunately, we received that audit result back this week to get a better understanding of what the overall cost of the project is as we go forward, because we have to get a second loan to cover the cost of the project. So we'll have the results of that for your consideration at a future meeting. But they should be back on the heavy push for installs right after the first of the year. So about to get kicked back off with all of that. So when they were installing before, they were doing between 60 and 80 meters a day. So that kind of gives you an idea once they get back rolling, and now they know what to expect at every install. We'll be putting meters in the ground very quickly.
We have been replacing some of the larger ones, right?
Some of the larger ones have been replaced. Of course, with everything else right now, the materials for even some of the larger we've got the meters, but the fittings and things have been a little hard to source. So.
What's our interest rate on a GFA loan today?
Current GFA loan is 0.07%.
0.07.
0.07%. So
And,
that's
Are we gonna have to-
0.0007.
It's like free money.
Is that for the whole meter replacement?
That's for
project?
$7.5 million of the meter replacement. Based off our estimates that we got back on the audit, we were thinking we were gonna do two $7.5 million loans. Preliminarily, it looks like we're gonna need to do that second loan for $10 million instead of $7.5 million.
Can we apply for some of this SRLF money that every community in Georgia can apply for?
Boy,
That
absolutely.
the state of Georgia
What's
has?
today's date? I got 11 more days to get that finished.
Could we put it in there for the meters and,
Yes.
and $7.5 million so we wouldn't have to go to GFA loan and use
Sure.
that as matching money?
Sure.
You know how to do that application?
I'm going to be applying for several $1 million worth of that money by the end of the month, so. Yes, sir. I can say we're gonna get any of it, but we're gonna apply for a lot of it and see what happens.
Are you gonna have separate projects or just one project?
Multiple projects.
So they can cut it back?
They can cut it back, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Priority Basin Clean and CCTV. In progress.
They're in progress. They're currently, as of this week, doing some cleaning and televising in the Glen Haven neighborhood. So they're out there right now doing that. So the scope of this project, if I remember exact, is about 71,000 feet of pipe they're cleaning and televising. And they will be making recommendations as after their television for what can be lined, what needs to be open, cut, and replaced. We'll of course review those recommendations, but for some lining work to be completed with the bond money.
I'm looking at this photograph on the right. And it looks like to me that might not be a standard connection.
That
Hammer
is
tap.
a protruding tap there. So
That's a good old hammer tap.
old clay lines. If you hit it hard enough with a hammer, you can create a hole where you can stick a piece of pipe in there.
There's probably a couple sacks of sackcrete sitting on
Yeah,
top of it
concrete
too. That was
around
the
it.
typical.
The
Probably, yeah.
clay pipe
Process.
looks okay there.
Once you concrete around it, the clay pipe looks okay, but we'll have to cut that protruding lateral out of the way.
Is that done with a flail tool or something like that that goes through there?
You don't have to cut it away if we're not relining it.
If we're not relining it, right. If we were to reline
And
that
the pipe
section,
looks pretty good right there, so we might not have to reline that portion.
we'll have to see. Obviously, I haven't seen the full video on this one.
And then the same for the roots.
Right.
Use the same type
Hmm.
of.
You can use the cutter. You can also do chemical treatment for roots.
For roots,
You
yeah.
can inject a chemical treatment that will kind of cause the roots to dissolve.
It's a rotary grinder they can articulate on the end of the robot, and they can about the same thing they use to cut the service lines. Right.
It's a Dremel on a robot.
Yeah, it's a beefed up Dremel tool.
Before we put this out for bids on, do we have rehab in this contract too?
No, sir.
So before we put out for rehab, can you show us what you propose to rehab?
Absolutely.
Drawing of that, pictures.
We don't have any photos, but one thing I will update on is the SCADA project. We are about 80% through the lift station SCADA installs. We now have all of the panels hung, and 93, I think, don't put me on the exact number of them are actually terminated and integrated into the system. We were planning to do a demonstration of the new SCADA software, but we knew today's meeting had quite a lot of agenda items, so we didn't want to push our luck with that. Hopefully next month we'll have a demonstration of the new SCADA capabilities and what we can pull up.
And all the staff is up to date, up to speed, trained with the new software and everything?
Well, all the staff has experience using it, but as part of the contract, they're also going to provide additional training as part of this. So all in all, that SCADA project is going very well. They're expected to be completed. They'll be back the the week after Veterans Day, so that'll be the third week of November, to hopefully knock out the rest of the installs and integrations prior to Thanksgiving. So.
Okay, that's in the picture report. And of course, the earned value analysis was on there as well.
Earned value report, you'll notice that our schedule compliance has increased up to 80%. The bulk of that, I will be honest, is the fact that some of our higher dollar projects, particularly the North Main and Force Main project, is getting back closer to on schedule now that we have pipe going in the ground.
Yep.
So that project has driven a lot of that schedule compliance improvement, but you'll see with some of those large dollar projects, increased compliance with the North Mainland, and then the Academy Creek project still remaining close to on schedule has helped maintain that schedule compliance across the board. We have a couple of them that are still have some lower compliance numbers, but we're starting to gain traction on those as well. So
Overall, picture looks good.
looking very good. I think we had last month, or last year, we talked about it at the Finance Committee, we did 16 to 20 million in projects, and we're probably going to be closer to 25 by the end of this year on projects completed. So
25 completed.
Thank you.
Thank you,
that's a
Todd.
little bit misleading because 10 million of it's coming from the plant, but
All right, numbers are good.
numbers are good.
Talk a little bit about the North Mainland elevated tank to us.
Yes, sir. We, as portions of the bond issuance, are looking at installing a North Mainland exit 42 elevated storage tank. That is an area that is attractive for economic development. There's a large economic development track at Tradewinds, as well as the Gateway property that is owned by the Economic Development Authority. And one of the things we have been repeatedly told by people that are interested in that property is we wish we had an elevated tank in the area. Those industries like having that elevated tank for fire protection purposes. So we are looking to locate an elevated storage tank in that area. We've got prices on, or budgetary estimates on different size tanks and styles of tank. Mr. Klein's going to pull up some different style tanks here so we can take a look at it. But we'll be looking at the budget would be for a 500,000 gallon elevated storage tank in that area.
Nice one.
There are some nice tanks in there. We lean towards the more, and I think he's put up the legged tank. You see it has the
That's not a pretty legged tank though.
That looks pretty old-fashioned,
There's
that one.
prettier elevated tanks than that one.
I'm okay with the lattice legs.
Yes.
That goes. All about utilitarian use.
There's another typical style you'll see is this style,
golf ball
pedisphere.
style tank, as they call these. They're called pedispheres, but they look like golf balls on tees.
Yeah, yeah. There's also composite style. This is like our I-95 tank that we've got. These are not our tanks. These are just 5-minute till crops off the website, off the internet.
That looks imposing.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's pretty industrial looking. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah, it's kind of nice looking. A lot of room for NASCAR style logos and
I will say,
advertising.
everybody has their favorite style of tank, and people get very personal in what style of tank they like.
The one that you just showed though,
Yes, sir.
is it the Kia site over on I-85? It really stands out really
Yes, sir.
good.
Yes, sir, it does.
Yeah. So
Logo and everything, the lights on it.
that's like Perry Park right there. That's the hydro pillar with a steel, corrugated steel around the base of it. Let's see. Of course, industrial was one of the.
Obviously, if we put a new tank up, it would not be rusted as that one is.
Aged industrial.
In steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
Beyond.
the rustic look is in these days.
Is that it?
Another style.
Warner Brothers.
This is my favorite here. If we can do something like this.
I've seen pictures. A previous employer had a open top concrete tank that people, this was in the 50s,
Yeah.
photos of people swimming in the water storage tank. Yes.
Petticoat
pretty
Junction,
much.
that's it, man.
You're right, Petticoat Junction.
Very much Petticoat Junction, but this was not on television, so
It was real.
Yeah, we could certainly take bids on two different type of tanks,
we could, certainly.
the composite tank and the legged tank, something like that.
Yes, sir. Get some flexibility in the design. It's just,
I know Donnie likes the composite tank because it gives some storage space down at the
It
bottom.
does, it is.
exactly,
it
gives
is.
you
know.
storage space at the bottom of that pillar.
You
that they
can have a
there.
little office in there, something like that.
You can, right,
There's
right,
absolutely no maintenance on the bottom, it's just the tank itself. On
Right.
the top you gotta do.
right.
Go back and pull that
Sure.
out. You don't mind.
So the only maintenance would be on the tank itself, is the bottom part.
That's just concrete
Bottom's
on the
concrete.
bottom. But see, he's got all that area and then he's got a door at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to access that tank because you climb up a ladder inside it.
It's all
Yeah.
internal, you don't have to deal with the wind or anything like that.
And you don't have to deal with kids trying to climb up or something like
No,
that.
you can't climb up that.
No.
But this is kind of a gateway, so whatever tank we put, whether it's legged or something.
See if I
like that,
can-
needs to be a nice looking tank.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have to have some.
But a lot of the legged tanks can be really good.
I think people would focus on if you put a logo or something.
Well, it will improve the fire flows in the areas and the pressures in the areas, and it shows people, once this is installed, that that area is available for.
Can we put it on the high point right there, that area? Is there a high point that we can put it on?
Should be able to, and that should be, we'll have to check, of course, with the airport and the FAA regulations about how high we can put it out there.
That's north of the flat pattern.
It should be, yes, sir.
Yeah, but if it's still,
I mean, the glide path.
Right.
you know, what we need to do is determine that overflow and go ahead and start talking to FAA about that. But I hadn't thought about that.
We'll have to put the blinking red lights on top of it.
And the cell phone antennas for.
Well, I don't know if we want cell phone antennas on that.
No.
Yeah.
I know.
They're not very pretty, but boy, we
Generate a
can
lot
bring
of
in the
revenue.
generation of revenue that way.
That's the good part. I don't know that there's a lot out there, so,
Not yet,
no, not yet, exactly.
but there's a lot of activity, for people looking in that area right now.
Okay.
You think we can tie down the site pretty quick?
Hopefully, depends on where we locate it at, obviously. If he wants, depends on which side of the interstate we want the tank on.
Yeah, I was trying to get a good shot of our I-95 tank, but it's hard to,
We won't let Google into the facility.
The I-95 tank?
yes, sir.
That's at the
That's-
water
It's not
lab.
very pretty.
That's the water lab. It's really off the beaten path.
Right there behind the school.
Yeah, I was
Oh,
trying to
the
get a
one down
gang.
south.
on-
On
We
the
need to
south
get
end.
your drone pilots out there.
Right,
That's on the south end?
No, sir, that's up,
exit 36,
X36, Cape Road, Glendale, Crispin, that
That's the
area.
dumpy one?
Winn-Dixie right
That's the one
there.
where Donnie's office is.
That's right here, right behind the school. That's a concrete-based hydro pillar.
Speaking of Donnie, and we talked about the galvanized, and
Composite.
I'll mention this again tomorrow. We did apply for a distribution system award again, as we did last year, and we have been notified that we will be getting the gold level award once again for our distribution system work, and we will have representatives at the GAWP Fall Conference to accept that award in person.
Good. Anything else?
I believe that is all we have to do, sir.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Todd, for putting those tanks together.
Thank you.